All right, welcome, Victory, the podcast. We got Gary Cole. I'm so excited about this. I mean, Gary doesn't know this because I'm sure you haven't listened to the podcast. We talk about you.
We've been talking about you a lot over the last.
I mean, before we thought we'd even be able to get you on this podcast. So.
Doug was like, "Why don't you call him?" I'm like, "I don't know. Why don't you call him?" We were both afraid to call you. So thanks for joining us.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Good. Really good.
Yeah. Gary. So we could jump into like the first thing I want to talk about because, and I have no idea if you remember this, but sometimes I make fun of Kevin. We've had some real actors on this show, with, John McGinley and this and that, and they talk about process where Kevin hates auditioning.
I have anxiety. It gives me anxiety. He knows that, bro. He understands.
Well, I don't know anyone that likes auditioning.
Right.
I wouldn't say, but yeah.
So do you remember, though, what happened with Entourage when you came on Entourage? Because I still actually can't believe it. Because do you remember this?
You mean from the audition forward?
I don't want to call it an audition. What happened was...
Oh, yeah, okay, right.
So I wrote this part of Andrew Klein, whose character is named based on one of my best friends. Right. And I wrote it for Eric Bogosian. It was just, and the hair, which Gary Cole's hair right now, by the way, is still ridiculous.
Now you're jealous of his voice and his hair.
Both of them. But I wrote it for like an Eric Bogosian type, just a haggard kind of like, and Sheila Jaffe, our great caster, calls me and says, Gary Cole, would love to do this. And I was like, well, I mean, Gary Cole's amazing, but it's Eric Bogosian. They have nothing. And she said, he'll read for you. And
you were embarrassed. You were like, I don't want him to. I don't want him to.
I was embarrassed because I said, I know Gary Cole's work. I know it, which I watched Fatal Vision, by the way, last night for the first time probably in 25 years. I had to pull it on YouTube. It's not even available.
Yeah, it's tough to find.
Which is bizarre. Yeah. But you came in, and I said to you, because nobody said you were going to actually, I don't think Sheila said you were going to read. Sheila said, have a meeting with them.
Have a meeting. Right.
Have a meeting.
I got that from my agents, too. Right.
So who knows, by the way, what anyone told Gary. Right. But anyway, we got in the meeting, and again, by the way, I had pretty good hair then. It's not as good today. But I remember the big thing was like Bogosian's hair, and then Gary Cole walks in with that great fucking head of hair that you have. And I said, Gary, it's just, I'll write something for you. Like, I'll come up with a character, but I don't think it's this. And I think you said, I'll just read it. Right? I mean,
well, I always, and this happened to me a couple times, and this was one of those times. But when I got the information about, it's going to be a meeting. And my agents were promoting the fact that they wanted it to be a meeting only. You should only have a meeting. I never, especially if it's something I think I can really sink my teeth into. I don't know what to do in a meeting. I really don't.
Right.
What are we going to sit there and go, yeah, so how are you?
You're more comfortable auditioning than meeting?
And knowing that, and I looked at that material and I said, and I told him, I said, I can do something with this. I know I can. And so when we were sitting there and we chatted for 5 minutes or whatever, and I don't know how it came up, but I was eager to read it.
It's so funny.
And so we did, and here we are.
I mean, that story gives me anxiety listening to it.
Well, it gave me anxiety because, mostly I kind of consider Connolly and I, we're not really in the business. We never really were. And we're not like Gary's like Steppenwolf trained actor. And I just remember going, this is going to be hard. I'm going to have Gary Cole read and not give him this role. Like, this is so fucking uncomfortable. And then, of course, I think you read one line. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to change this whole part.
He was talking about your audition for 2 weeks after you came in that day.
Well, I said Gary Cole was legitimately one of the best actors I've ever worked with, and I mean that, not because you're sitting here. And also, mostly I cast people, they just are some version of what they're acting, for the most part, the stuff I do. And you are so diverse in what you do that even though I got to know you a little bit when we shot the show, I don't know really anything about you, and I think your career is so interesting because it is, and Connolly and I were talking about this before, you have one of the great careers in Hollywood that's kind of a little understated. I noticed, which is absurd. You have one Emmy nomination. I think that's correct, which is absurd, But do you travel under the radar? Now you're on NCIS, which is going to be probably, I don't know if it's still 20 million people a week watching it, but
not quite that anymore. Nobody gets it, but they do for nowadays. They get extraordinary audience.
So do you walk around though and people harass you, or do you kind of get to go?
No, I mean it's still. I get you get spotted, and doing a show like that, you're on the air every week, so that's a little more than it normally would be. and Kevin probably said, it's about how fast you're moving and what if you're in a contained area or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have to
Take a process
to register who you are.
Right.
That's
what I was saying. I said to Doug, come on, if you were standing online at the Chevron and he was in front of you, you would know exactly
Yeah.
But people will know you from different things, right? And they're random things.
Right, and it's like, what's the demographic? How old is the person?
Right.
Recognize you?
But you just are still, and you look great, but you're still like in the mainstream stuff. I mean, these are the biggest shows of the last 20 years, from The Good Wife to West Wing to obviously your voice work on Family Guy and on Archer. I mean, it's been an incredible career, and you started in the theater, right, in Chicago?
Yeah,
That's
right.
the key. It always starts there, right? That's where all the good actors come
Well,
from. The theater.
I worked in Chicago probably on the stage from like I don't know 78 through the mid '80s when Fatal Vision came around in '84, and people always ask, everybody asks actors, what was does luck have a part, or fate have a part in your career being launched or being going a certain direction? And I always say, well, of course it does. It's all a crapshoot. But I do, and I look back on it now. But I think you can be ready for luck or not ready for it. In other words, if you get an opportunity, you don't know when that's going to happen. You don't know when it's going to come again. So if you get one, you have to make it count. And I think I had worked enough and done enough different kinds of things in all the theater that I did that I was ready for something that was in front of me and I could deliver on it.
Was Fatal Vision your first?
Well, essentially it was. I had done a television movie because that was kind of the heyday of network TV movies. I had a couple weeks on something that shot regionally outside of Chicago. So if there was, in other words, they would have local hires for stuff that was shooting in, Ohio or Pittsburgh, or if it happened to be in Chicago. But other than that, that was the first. I mean, it was certainly the first major role that I did. So it was quite a.
And that was a huge TV.
Well, also
movie.
too for people listening, in these days there was 3 networks, right? You had you were either on CBS, NBC, or ABC. So I believe 60 million people watched.
Is that an accurate number?
Yes,
it
is.
Is that a real number?
Those days, I don't know if it's that high, but I mean,
What do you think? I just pulled that number out of thin air? That's in my research.
There
bro.
you go.
60
He
million,
knows.
60 million people watched Fatal
Connolly,
Vision.
by the way, just so you know, he does very little research except for a couple of guests. It has to be someone major that he actually will do anything. But I actually know Joe McGinnis's son a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Through,
Okay.
through like social media.
I went to high school with Jeffrey McDonald. He
even
went to
nuts.
my high school.
Yeah, he's a little
really.
The Kassabs are from my hometown.
Oh, wow.
Literally half a block
So
away.
let me just give people, so you understand, I think, and I could be wrong, In Cold Blood was probably the book that really started the true crime genre, I think. But Fatal Vision was as big as anything, and I remember watching that movie, Carl Malden,
Carl Malden.
who's amazing, and I think Miracle on Ice, which he plays her.
And who played Carl Malden's wife? Who played
Eva Marie Saint.
Eva Marie Saint,
Yeah.
Carl Malden, and for people listening, Jeffrey McDonald was a guy from Long Island, Princeton, Ivy League, Green Beret doctor. For seemingly no reason, out of the blue, snaps, and in the middle of the night butchers his family and blames it on Manson.
And there's a doc on HBO, I think.
A bunch of Wilderness of Error that came out.
So that came on, but the movie was great. So you just got a Chicago local audition for that, or
It was. I had taken a couple of trips out here for pilots while still living in Chicago. I actually read for Miami Vice about a year before that.
Oh, wow.
And got down to, there was
for Don's role?
Yes, exactly. So there was the network auditions. So there's 3 versions of Tubbs and Crockett sitting in a waiting room somewhere, and you go in.
That's
and
unbelievable.
They were like mixing and matching.
And in these days, when you would go to a network audition, the network executives would literally sit almost like a theater.
Yeah.
And they would bring you in and out and mix and match. And there's 3 Crockett's, 3 Tubbs.
Right. And you're not isolated. You're back in the room. Goes, so how are you doing?
Right.
I hope you fall through the floor. And that didn't work. But there was an NBC guy named Joel Thurm, who was, I think, the vice president of programming. he had a relationship and knew well a casting director in Chicago named Jane Alderman. She was the casting director. There weren't that many, but she was like the casting director in Chicago. They were looking for this role, and I think it was one of those situations where they had all those three people. They had Carl Malden, they had Amy Saint, they had Andy Griffith. So
There's a few people in there. Really,
yeah, they didn't need a somebody that was known to do this part. I think they were trying. They had a list, and they were probably crossing names off it. I heard Alec Bald was on their list. I don't know. So, but they were getting close. They were getting down to it. So they started looking at people, and I just got a call. I was still in Chicago. I was in a play at the time, and she said, and I got on a plane, came out here, and read it. And I don't know. It didn't go all that well to me, but it was all very surreal to me, and I couldn't figure out if I got the job or not. But I figured. I figured when wardrobe came and they were measuring me for wigs, I guess this is looking okay.
Looks good. They're still waiting to hear about Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, but exactly. It's like it's all very tentative, but Anyway.
Did life change after that aired, or?
Well, I mean, what I remember is that it was such a good first experience for an actor. I mean, I had been on a set before, but I didn't know one end of the camera from the not. I didn't know, I thought you do the scene once and you leave.
Right.
They said, "Oh, right."
That's how Connolly does.
We're going to do coverage. What's that?
Right. So you'd never. Wow, that's unbelievable.
So I knew those things going into this, but I worked. I was basically in everything. Or maybe not everything.
98%.
Yeah, Carl Malden, and there was that part of the story too. But I worked 80-90% of the time, every day, and with these people. So it was like,
it's a good
and I
training
couldn't. It just.
And that was a 4 hour. I mean, I guess
it was 4 hours.
Commercials,
4 hours.
but
it was 2 nights,
2 nights, 2 hours.
So how many? Do you remember what that shoot was? How long?
It was 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Did you research that at all, or did you not feel the need?
No, I mean, obviously there was the book to go from, but they had a lot of stuff. Just the producers, they had transcripts from the original court military trial,
the A32s or whatever.
They had grand jury transcripts. They also had crime photos. They had real crime photos.
I mean, I was wondering. When I watched it last night, I was thinking 84, and for a while, to be honest with you, when Midnight Caller, you were Jeffrey McDonald to me for a while. That movie had a big impact on me at the time, and obviously,
60 million people.
But I'm just saying, like it was this kind of like Brian's song. It was a special movie of the week,
really,
or whatever.
It was big in my hometown.
It was, it was a lot better than most of the TV movies, and it was great. So I kind of saw you that, but was it something that was a game changer for your career immediately, or?
Well, certainly, because to go from who are you at all to oh yeah. That's, even at that early stage, that's a big deal. When the door opens and people know who you are, as opposed to the door opens and people are, trying to hide their boredom. So sure, it didn't really. I was very naive, and it was Los Angeles was very strange to me. So I kept kind of retreating back to Chicago because I was like. I wasn't very productive with my time. I didn't know how to do nothing.
Yeah, that's what I do all day now. That's what I'm struggling with right now.
So, but certainly it got me into other room. It got I did some other television movies which were not on the level of that. I don't think because they were. I think one thing about the script of Fatal Vision is that a lot of that was. Those were real conversations. Most of that stuff was documented. Certainly everything in the court was documented, but also a lot of what took place where you saw scenes between Freddie and his wife.
It's almost word for word.
Yeah, I mean they all came from McGinnis, interviewing and sitting down with these people. So all of that stuff was related.
That's why I was pretty shocked. What I was saying is that in '84, so watching it last night, they were showing those. I didn't know if they were real crime scene photos that they showed in the beginning of that movie. Because I'm trying to think of a TV movie. They showed the kids, their hands and blood, and it was pretty quickly disturbing.
Yeah, no, it was the opening of that is I mean, it was done, with some restraint, but it is pretty gruesome. Yeah.
And I think people don't really understand. Like in '84, when this movie came out, and obviously In Cold Blood was before that, but I don't think the true crime genre is anywhere near. There's no Dateline. There's no 2020 every day, and this was such a stunning, shocking thing. So,
but it also that part of it was that McGinnis wrote. Jeffrey McDonald hired McGinnis to write Fatal Vision on his behalf.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, Joe McGinnis is like, this guy's just guilty. I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
right,
that really turned on him. So that's another twist.
Jeffrey McDonald sued him, I think.
Yeah. Oh, he did.
I think he won.
Well, as a matter of fact, he was in the middle while we were shooting. I don't know if the suit had been if that court case had been completed, and I don't even remember what the outcome of. He actually did win libel.
I think he might have won. On the
he was already involved in that because McGinnis was around a little bit at the beginning, and he mentioned that. And then he was also in the process of, I don't know if he ever went through with it, that he was going to also sue NBC at the time.
Well, and every time McDonald was coming up for a parole hearing, or any time he had some kind of a hearing, NBC would air the movie. And it's like, how can we possibly get a fair? Yeah. And that's how I know about the 60 million people.
He could sue me too, but he's guilty. So
I would have an easier time believing O.J. Simpson was innocent.
I mean, it's so ridiculous when you watch all the facts. You read the book, which I did read at the time. Do you play the part though? Do you go in it and say he's guilty or innocent, or how do you approach that?
I talked to the director, the late great David Green. We were talking about it, and. Because what's interesting also in the script is you never see McDonald alone. He's never alone. So there is no opportunity for him to be reflecting on whether is he pulling something off.
Right.
But I didn't want it to seem like there was a guy, because the script was pretty, I mean, it was basically it was the facts, but it certainly was not on his side.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to play somebody that the audience would perceive as deceiving people. So I kind of played it as if he was just a wronged, innocent guy.
Right.
Not a great guy.
Yeah.
Kind of an ass, frankly, kind of a, just narcissistic, selfish and could be petty at times.
Right.
But not somebody that was responsible for the crime. Because I figured the script would take care of that. I didn't want to be hiding. I wanted to every time. I wanted to be real indignant about him being accused of everything, and people coming in his face, and because there were a lot of people that were really supportive of him.
Well, I actually spent the whole night watching you last night.
How has he managed to keep this? I guess the question is, what is still the interest in this story? I mean, it's not. I don't want to say that it's common, but it's not uncommon. You hear these stories. What is the fascination about that one particular case?
Well, I think maybe it's what Doug said, is that it because of it may have been, if not the first, one of the early
true
kind
crime.
of really large crimes that was a media spectacle, and so just because of that, it lives on, because it was a book, it was a movie, and then there's been not just one but several other documentaries looking at the other
and because you see it every day now, you think it's common. It's still not common for someone to do this. And it's hard to believe.
But this happened in 1978.
Right. But I also think there's a little bit, even though it's not a gigantic part of the story, but when you attach Manson in there, that still lingers with people.
It's so nuts. The magazine is like the blood is, if that's the actual facts, which again, I haven't read the book in 30 years, but his blood is on the page writing about the Manson murders.
You know that Christopher Reeves did the audiobook of Fatal Vision?
Oh, I didn't know that.
We've had this discussion on whether or not it counts. Like, can I say I read the book if I listen to it? Is there an asterisk next to it?
You should read
I listened to the book.
Be good for you to read.
And Christopher Reeves it's unbelievable.
That's interesting, because I heard way back that actually he was one of the names on the list, and would that have been post Superman?
That would have been post Superman.
So I'm sure
right in that wheelhouse.
I'm sure his agents. I don't think we go from Superman to the guy that kills.
Take Cole.
Yeah.
So you get Cole. So I want to know though. You're doing theater, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into this 8-week shoot with all this coverage and stuff. Then and now, how do you compare? What do you like better?
It's been a long time since I really spent a lot of time on stage. I mean, I can't say that I like one over the other. They're, at the core of it, you're doing the same thing. It's just that the environment is so much different. I mean, there's great things about being on stage. To being able to sustain something for that period of time without any break to it. The ability when you're on stage and you're in the run of a play that if you have a bad night, you can go back and fix it.
Right.
If you got a scene that you think is going off the cliff and it's sooner or later it's got a wrap for the day and you go, boy, I hope the editor
can
save that because you're not going to get another shot.
We always did that with Connolly.
In 2001, I went to the La Jolla Playhouse and I saw you do Billy the Kid. And
my God.
He played Pat Garrett. Sean Haddisey's a buddy of mine.
Oh, okay.
So I
sure.
drove out to the La Jolla Playhouse and I'm thinking, the great actors I don't know if it's to go back to keep the blades sharp, but the great actors seem to go back to the stage when there's downtime or between. So do you still do that, or is that
It's been a while, although just out of circumstances, I've tried to do. I was scheduled to do a play at Steppenwolf the last 2 years. One got interrupted because I was on Veep and Julia Dreyfus. She had to deal with her whole health situation.
Right.
So that whole schedule changed. We actually shut down for a year, and so that kind of.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
And then I was scheduled to be on the Steppenwolf stage starting in May of 2020, but we know what happened there.
Yeah.
What was that going to be?
That was a play called "Catch Me If You." I think it was called. I think "Catch as Catch Can," not from the movie, not the movie. Some other. It was a new play by a playwright. I think there might have been a production in New York that had already been.
And now you're doing NCIS, which is obviously one of the biggest shows. So you're not going to have a lot of time for theater now, I guess. I mean, I'm assuming that's, and I don't know how much your character is going to be in this or not, because it's about to start airing the 20th season, I think.
Correct. Right.
So is that a huge workload, hour drama?
Yeah, I mean, it's back to. I mean, it's been a while since I've done that long haul. The first really and only time I've done that was right at the beginning.
Midnight Caller.
It was Midnight Caller.
Yeah.
22 shows a year, hour show.
A lot of work.
So did you contemplate, do I want to sign up for this? Obviously, it's obviously
It had a lot.
moments.
There was a lot of upsides, and not just about. It was first of all, it was here. It was something that was established, that was working well, and it was. I liked it, and part of the reason that that I was lucky enough to land on it was that Mark Harmon, who had been on the show for 19 years, had contemplated leaving. But they were in an odd situation, which I was surprised about, which was that he was going to leave, and then when he kind of made that known, then the producers or the network just decided that, well, maybe it's time to fold up the tent. And I guess that he was maybe not quite, thinking that would be the outcome if he left, although I wouldn't be, wouldn't have surprised me. So what he decided was that he would stay for the first 4 shows of last season. Mm-hmm. And so it was, I liked the way they had my character enter, because it wasn't just if he was just gone and then, oh yeah, and a guy walks through the door and says,
like Bewitched.
So yeah, right. I'm the new Darren. Thank you. We actually had scenes together where there was the story was that I worked for the FBI. They worked in their organization, NCIS. We were tracking the same guy. We collided in a story, and I wound up, leaving the FBI and working with them as he, kind of went off into the sunset.
Right.
So I thought it was a good transition.
Yeah.
So.
I have a question. So at what point, at a certain point, you got into the sort of the mainstream comedy. How did you get catapulted into that world? Was it the Brady Bunch?
Yes. That was, Brady Bunch was what, 1991?
God.
I had been around,
Really?
since Fatal Vision, basically.
Right.
Just here and there. And I would, I'd gone back to Chicago and done plays. The 80s were like the heyday of the network TV movie. And I did a pile of those, some better than others. But I hadn't done anything you could remotely say was comic at all.
Right.
I met Betty Thomas Betty Thomas directed Midnight Caller once, and I had met her before that. She knew Jim Belushi, Jim Belushi and I did a play called True West in New York, the Sam Shepard play. She came to see that. This was before Midnight Caller. Then she directed Midnight Caller. So the Brady Bunch thing came up, and I got a script for it. And I had heard about it. It had been around for a couple of years, I guess, and I didn't know what to do with it. So
Right, it's a tricky one.
I said, well, okay. But the idea was funny because they left the Bradys in the 70s and everybody else was in the 90s. They thought they were like monsters or something. It was like the old 60s.
I watched it last night.
Yeah, this it was like the old
Like they were
monsters
frozen.
or
They were
animals.
frozen in the 70s, and
they
the whole world
regarded
kept
them
going.
as like these hideous, like, oh my God, here they come, don't look. And so I just went in and tried to do. I watched a couple episodes and just I don't know, tried to do Robert Reedish things.
Right.
I don't know.
But it's like you're playing it straight, right? You're not
Right,
really
because
playing it
actually,
comedy.
if you look at that, we're the straight people.
guy. You're the straight
Michael McKean and everybody else is that
Right.
But you're still hilarious, and so is Shelley Long.
Well, yeah. I mean, the one thing I knew is that they wanted, or that the best thing that was going to sell it was to do it so that everyone would be reminded of the original actors,
Right.
And try to tweak that and satirize that. And I remember Betty, I must have went in like 3 times, and she just like. I would do it. There was absolutely no laughter in the room at all, which was disconcerting.
Right.
And she was like, she had this face like, oh, boy, is this, what am I looking at? I don't know. It could be good, could be horrible. I'm just not sure. And I would come in, I'd get the same face going again. And the last time I came in, they had already cast Shelley. And then they gave me some, just some wig, not a fitted wig, just some curly permed wig. And I remember they said they were going to do that, and I went down. Actually, I just myself went down to Melrose and got myself a really horrible polyester shirt and put it on. And Shelley and I did a couple of scenes. Still, just like crickets, like. And I go, wow. This is, and I walked out of there and oh my God, I guess I'm going to go back to Chicago now. And then there was still more time went past, and I'm sure it was the old, where's Dana Carvey's phone number? Crossing people off the list, and then But I think she really went to bat for me because I don't think I don't.
I mean, honestly, you're so good in it, and so is Shelley, who I would love to ask if you're willing to say was she.
She was great.
She was.
She was great. We had a really fun time. So were all the kids, and yeah, I mean, Betty decided the best way to play him was that he seemed like he was very confident. And knew how to solve everything, but he was absolutely vacant. Right. He just had absolutely nothing going on in his head whatsoever.
Is that tough to play? I mean, what's the thought process there?
I actually like sometimes when you have a lot of restrictions on a character because you don't have to. There's only certain things you stay in a lane, right? And so you don't want to go off of that because if you don't commit to that specificity, it's not. I don't think it's going to land well. We had they borrowed from 10 episodes. They put all of that stuff in the script, but they were already moments that were already on film that we could use.
Mom, my nose. Oh,
right,
my
the
nose. The nose, like the
Johnny Bravo, all of that stuff.
Right.
It's really good. So does that lead to a lot of comedy?
Yes. Then it was nothing. Then
you
it was
get
all
offered Office Space or like
no, but it was certainly any comic. A lot of comic roles. All of a sudden, doors were open that I never saw before.
Right.
Because it's still kind of a subtle performance. Your comedy performances are subtle. I mean, even Office Space, it's pretty, it's not wild and over the top.
It's again, a very specific thing.
Right.
And I went in, and again, I had a lot of ammunition. And it's just like you're writing. I mean, it's specifics. You don't want to get in the way a lot if something is really landing well and it's really written well and it's really specific. Office Space, same thing. And not only that, I had the video. He sent the video out to everybody. It's based on a video.
That character is
Milton and Lumbergh. Not everybody else, but there's 3, I think, little minute shorts where it's you just see Milton mumbling to himself, which is Mike, and then Lumbergh comes in and tortures him. I don't think Mike was Lumbergh, but I may have that wrong. I know he was Milton. So again, I saw it and I said, well, I can't do it better than that. So I'll just do that.
Right.
And
well, you did it. I mean, it's
and so Mike thought, oh yeah, I like that. I like the way you did it.
I mean, it's so iconic at this point after all this time. And I'm like, did South Park take these Ks? Like,
that guy, right. I don't know. I mean, and those are really specific. People always ask me, you must have ad-lib. I said, no, that is all off the video, and that is every little thing is
scripted.
Mike is like really, like kind of paintbrushy with those, so it was, but it because it came from something that was really solid and worked, and then he built a story around it.
Right.
But that had to be a total game changer.
Yeah.
Office Space.
Yeah,
that was the one, right?
Yeah. Then it was more. I mean, I still was. I was still reading for things, but it there's a different. There's a different vibe when you come in the room and people know who you are.
Right.
And they've got something to to compare you to.
Well, you go higher up on those lists, right?
Yeah, right.
So you're anticipating.
You're in the conversation as opposed to waiting for people to die.
You're on the short list. Yeah. You're on the short
and
list.
do you like? I mean, again, I believe whatever Mike did, which he's amazing. Obviously, that character you made work, and to me, it's the standout of the movie, and it's what everybody remembers and what everybody talks about still to this day. But do you like it when a writer director is that specific with the little things of the text, or do you like when you're a little more free?
In that case, I knew that would be the best way to do that character. Mm-hmm. That's not always the case. Sometimes there's restrictions that aren't necessary,
right,
and are more of an obstacle, But when I saw that character, even in an animated form, it's some writers just have a knack. I know that guy.
Right.
I've worked with that guy. I've seen that guy before, and so I just trusted him that he knew, how that was going to be manipulated. And so again, about the thing about staying in the lane, Lumbergh is like he's really one speed. He's just like nothing penetrates it.
Right.
Also, if you look at what Mike Judge did in that movie, if you look at the colors of the walls. And that it just feels like the most miserable place that you could ever work in. All the wardrobe is like muted colors. Yeah. It's just like dark wall. Yeah. It just reminded people of
cubicle
life of just like rows of cubicles.
Stephen Root said something interesting, and I didn't. It's hard to track now, but he said that after that movie, you started looking at commercials, and all of a sudden you were seeing wide open workspaces with a lot of cubicles.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this? Because I never worked in an office, had no office skills. I had no business being in an office. So I didn't understand the connection that so many people had to the movie because that was their environment. Right. I mean, that's why it really had an impact.
But even watching it last night, which, I haven't been in an office in probably 35 years either, it makes you understand why after this pandemic, nobody wants to go back to work because, it just like it is as ridiculous as it is. And obviously, if you remember it all with the reports and stuff.
Oh my God.
TPS reports.
It is so fucking funny, but so absurd.
No, it's just so oppressive. I mean, the one thing, and I remember shooting it, and it's like, it doesn't get focused on a lot in the movie, is the constant, we have a birthday today, and a happy birthday, and the people just trying to keep somewhat of a smile on their face while they do it.
And what's interesting because have you watched Severance?
No, I haven't.
Because Severance is almost like. Have you watched it yet or no?
It lost me somewhere in the middle.
So Connolly, we just did a pilot, and Tremel Tillman, who's a Chicago actor, so I don't know if you've ever come across him, but he's in Severance. But it's like the next iteration of miserable Office Spaces. And I forgot about the birthday. They do the birthday things on Severance constantly, but they are there's only like 4 people who work in this space. And a guy comes out with a fucking camera, and it is so depressing and sad, but also funny. And I guarantee
Severance is a complete.
It kind of came from that.
It's a complete difference between work and home life. So you don't remember if you had a great. If you go home, you have no memory of the office, and when you come into the office, you have no memory.
I'm telling you,
that's what Severance is.
No, but I'm telling you, and I wonder if that Ben Stiller had it from there, because Ron Livingston says in that show, I wish I could just not remember work. And that's what they basically get a surgery. So when they leave the office, they have no recollection. They don't even know what they do. So they could be murdering people.
That's what I love. That's one of the great things about the script of Office Space. Because normally in a movie, sometimes like that, if that was the story, the guy would go, I quit. I'm out of here. I'm never coming back again. But he doesn't do that. He said, are you going to quit? And he goes, no, I'm just not going to go anymore. Or something like that. I'm not going to, not really. I might show up.
He's really good. He's great.
He says, well, what about your bills? Nah, I'm not going to pay them either.
But even when also when he's talking to Aniston, he's just talking about like robbing the place. She's like, that's stealing. He's like, not really, no. And he kind of believes it.
He's great because he's like he's the steady, he actually described it once great. He goes, I'm like the bus driver. I drive through the movie and I say, all right, this character hops on, and I take him to the next step.
It's so great.
I mean, the scene with him and McGinley is epic.
It's just awesome.
McGinley owns me. I mean, that whole, Michael Bolton run. I celebrate the man's entire catalog.
McGinley is so great.
So what's your favorite Michael Bolton song? I don't know.
And by the way, Jerry, who was on Entourage, I don't know, are we allowed to talk about it? He had I shouldn't say it out of turn, but he had a little beef with Michael Bolton in a charity golf tournament.
Do you play golf, Gary?
I played I do, but not well. But I actually played in Mark's tournament one time during when the show was on.
Right.
Yeah.
So Jerry was in Jerry's defense, Jerry's a 20 handicap. He just is. He might be more, but he's playing at a 20 handicap. He happens to shoot like a great round, and he basically. He wins Bolton. The tournament. But he won the tournament.
Jerry did?
Jerry won the tournament with a 20 handicap, and Michael Bolton got in his face. Michael Bolton was like, I want to see your handicap index. I want to see you.
And by the way, Jerry will beat Michael Bolton's ass.
I mean, I don't think Jerry wanted any smoke with Michael Bolton. He was apparently very hot and pissed off at Jerry in Hawaii, like over the golf. Of all the people to confront you about being a sandbagger, Michael Bolton.
I wish Jerry would have said, what my favorite song of yours is, Michael.
I think it was over. I think it was just over before Jerry even realized what happened. Like Michael Bolton got in his face, yelled at him, threatened to.
And by the way, poor Jerry was probably. And I know Jerry. I think we pretty much started playing golf at the same time. I don't play anymore, but like he was barely playing golf at the time.
That's what I mean. So he had no business winning the tournament.
Yeah. So he had a good day, which God forbid you have a good day and you beat someone. They accuse you of sandbagging. So speaking of writing, obviously you worked with Sorkin. And so did we. We just had him on the podcast also. And one of my thrills in life was, beside from you actually cold reading something, which was nuts. But Sorkin did the show and didn't want to change anything, which I was like, you don't know. You got
Feel
nothing?
free to make your notes.
You got nothing there? Yeah. You want to rewrite the whole show? What do you want to do? But anyway, what was West Wing like? How was that?
Well, I think when if I got my history right,
Sorkin not.
I think he was left by then because I was I want to say it's season 5, and I think he might have been gone.
I didn't even realize that.
Is he a known stickler for words?
I don't. To be honest with you, I don't. I mean, he's a playwright, so I would assume.
According to the other folks that I know on the show, that would be a definite yes.
Right.
I know. I think Martin did. Martin's in the pilot we just did also. So and he's phenomenal. So I think.
Generally speaking, it's just probably better to stick with the script.
I mean, it depends what it is. Obviously, if you're doing Curb, and I don't know about Veep. Veep feels like there's a lot of improv.
Veep was a combo of both, although it was more script than maybe people think, but it had a feeling that it was not, and that had a lot to do with the first 4 years were all the guys from the UK, and there was a lot of rehearsal that was improvised that the writers just observed and then kind of took from that. and then we would, the script that was the first draft, you kind of throw that in a corner and then get up and do all the scenes. And then it was constantly being fiddled with, even while shooting it.
Yeah.
So it had that feeling. And then they would actually do which they do on movies, like Will Ferrell does it all the time, which is just to get what's on the page, get that shot, and then just do a couple of freebies.
Do your freebie. Do whatever you want. But Doug, I directed a couple episodes of Entourage, and Doug was like, just before people start clowning around, make sure everyone gets one word perfect, please.
Right.
And then you want to do a take where Jeremy says a bunch of boring shit for 2 hours. Go right ahead. But had you experience? Had you worked with Jeremy before Entourage? I mean, he's a Chicago guy, theater guy.
No, I knew Jeremy. I only knew him from being around Chicago.
Right.
I believe we might have had the same agent, so you'd come in through the door and
Right.
And then if I have this right, I was in a movie for about 2 seconds called Lucas.
Yeah.
Were you in Lucas?
I was in Lucas.
What did you do in Lucas?
Who were you in Lucas?
Yeah, exactly.
But I know Lucas.
But wasn't Jeremy in that?
Jeremy was in that.
Along with Charlie Sheen.
Corey Haim, a bunch of people.
I was the assistant coach of the football team. I had one line in the movie, and I remember seeing
one line in the movie or in the script?
One line in the movie.
So
maybe there was something. I was on the sideline going, "Come on," but
Right.
never. And
The one where Lucas gets hurt. It's the one where he gets hurt, like the end game, like the big game.
But I think I was in the locker room, and it was some training scene, and I was working on one of the players, and I had like one line.
Wow.
And when I saw the movie, it was looped, and it wasn't even my voice.
Well, I don't know who did that movie.
Oh, I don't remember.
So great, you took a voiceover star and you
Right.
cut him out of the movie.
I don't remember who the director was. I really
That's
don't.
so weird. Why
Yeah.
would they have done that? That's very.
No,
I mean,
I probably
hindsight-
wasn't. They probably couldn't find me. I was like,
Hindsight is 20/20. Did you ever see Dustin Hoffman as an extra in Star Wars? Did you ever see that?
no.
Yes.
What? Star Wars.
Dustin Hoffman
I mean,
is.
he's already done.
I think he already won an Oscar.
He's already Dustin Hoffman.
But he's like one of the guys with Darth Vader in a scene.
as a joke or
Yeah, like
for
he just
fun?
wanted. He stands there. He has no line, but it's in a shot.
Really?
Yeah.
He just wanted to do it for
100%
laughs.
Yeah, he just was a fan of George Lucas's first movie, which was
Okay.
like THX.
This is confirmed, right? I mean,
60 million
it's weird
people
that I've
watched.
never heard this.
60 million people watched.
This
Fatal
is a
Nation.
freeze-frameable moment.
And it is a freeze-frameable moment, Dave.
By
if
the
you
way,
knew how
because
to produce-
Connolly, he did do this before. Jeff Garland was on, and Connolly decided to tell him he was best friends with somebody they'd never met in his
No,
life.
I
because
didn't
he's
know
bad
that.
Google
I didn't know
research.
that. No, it was Wikipedia. I didn't know that people make up things.
Who
on
was it? You
Wikipedia.
thought Jeff Garland was best
That he
friends
was
with the
best
lead singer,
friends like
Night
the lead
Ranger, or
singer
something?
of Journey, maybe. I don't know, something crazy.
Jeff's like, no, I
I don't know.
No,
Who that
never
person
met him.
is. I'm like, I don't know him at all.
So you come on to Entourage, and again, the part I didn't really change the writing because you were doing it. I just left that character, and you. Again, we talk about this a lot on the podcast, so I don't want you to think I'm weird that I focus on your hair. But you're a handsome guy with a great head of hair. It just is. And this part you play, which I don't know. The thing I don't want to compare anything we did on Entourage to A Death of a Salesman, so don't start yelling at me.
Boy.
But like Brian Dennehy, when I saw him do Death of a Salesman, I'm like, I remember going into it going, how the fuck is Brian Dennehy going to do Death of a Salesman? This big, giant fucking guy and he was brilliant and he was amazing. And you kind of like shrink where Jeremy is the power and you're like almost, playing it like you're like a nerdy, unsure guy a little bit.
Sure.
So where was it? I don't know. I always like to think, I do think this because I know Connolly, this is how he shows up on set. And I feel like on Entourage, everybody was just like, oh, okay, I got it. And they show up and they do it. But it does feel like you, and there were a couple actors we had on the show that, like I said, I don't necessarily know who you are in reality because you're so good and can do so many different things. Like Adam Goldberg and Giovanni Ribisi. Like, I spent a couple of weeks with Giovanni Ribisi. I don't know a fucking thing about him.
Right.
So was that, like, what was your, if you can remember, what kind of thought process?
Well, I tell you, I remember because the audition's vivid to me because when I was working on it, it just was I didn't feel anything that wasn't authentic, And it's interesting because I think there's something in there in the scene. It's the scene where I think it's one of the early scenes with Jeremy when he's actually kind of luring him back, or he's reluctant to, but he wants him to come back or do him a favor or whatever. And he talks about the strike, if you remember that. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that. And how he's looking for something to blame for his ineptitude.
Yeah.
And he said, that goddamn strike. If it wasn't for the strike, I'd be you, Ari. And that was really clear, because I remember I was in a show. I was done okay, but I had a family, I had a mortgage, and I was in a show. It was an HBO show, and it was a big deal, and it was Lily Tomlin and this.
Which
and that.
one?
Exactly. It never saw the light of day.
You shot the whole season?
No, we shot 6 episodes.
Wow.
And it was a very expensive show. And then the strike hit in, what was that, 07 or whatever?
Yep,
whatever
I think so, yeah.
06 or
when I
something
played
like
golf,
that.
yeah.
And shut everything down. And then 3 months later, got a phone call from the producer to go, oh, good, we're back. But the phone call was not that. The phone call was, those 6 episodes? Yeah, they HBO set fire to those. We're not.
Let us know if you need something for your reel.
We're out of here. And I'm like,
good about
are you? Oh. So, and it was like, it wasn't quite as destitute as Andrew Klein was, but there was some urgency, and I remember doing that scene, and there were just so many things in that were kind of embedded, that I was kind of that were very real to me, maybe more real than I would have liked to admit at the time. And so is that, and the power of Ari and / Jeremy was very effective in being able to play that.
Yeah.
Because it was already, I mean, he was master of the universe of Hollywood. Right?
Yeah.
So this is where this guy he was close to it at one point, and now he blew it, and now he gets another chance. But he is, and what you said, he is the opposite of confident. He's very tentative about it.
And I think,
But you still needed a heavyweight like Gary to come in there to go head to head with him.
oh my God,
Right.
yeah. But get my thought process is, I guess I was worried at the time that it's not about better actors. So that's not what I'm talking about. I thought Gary might dominate, and
Right,
he might
I
not
know.
feel like Bogosian. You could see being more neurotic than Ari and out of control and this and that. And what you brought to it was this. What he was saying on Office Space a little bit is that subtlety that you shrink.
It's
you become
grounded.
this guy. It's amazing, and it's just different work than I normally do. I normally try to find the guy who is pretty much that character and do it. So I think it's interesting, and also watching you on Veep last night. You're so good with comedy, and he was asking how you got into it, but. Were you funny when you were a young actor? Were people like, oh, you want to do comedy? Or did you think, oh, I'm going to be this dramatic actor? Or is it
No,
not
I mean,
a difference?
when I was, that's the thing, when we were all working in Chicago, we did all kinds of things. We did it all. We ran the gamut.
Right.
Ridiculous, silly, to grim and dark, to, all in the course of a year, you'd switch up on that 4 or 5 times. So by the time we got here, or I got here, and you started, getting material, you were prepared to make choices about how you were going to go about something.
Right.
So it wasn't, and I never thought about it necessarily as a different thing. People say, comedy and drama. I never really look at it differently. To me, that's more up to the audience.
Right.
You're playing a character. Whether the audience is going to laugh at that character, that's
Right.
that's on them.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing about comedy, and I do agree with this, comedy, and I forget who I'm quoting somebody else to say, but I thought it was a good observation. It was Harold Ramis. He said, comedy can't sort of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's either
Confusion is the death of comedy.
yeah, it's either funny or it's not.
Right.
Drama or dark whatever can go. You can actually go, is this good?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to think about this.
Yeah.
Well, it could be.
And the guy next to you might think it's great while you think it's
Right,
horrible.
but if it's not funny, that's likely going to be exposed.
Because you know what's interesting? Even like in Office Space last night, and I don't know if anyone will see what I'm talking about here. You almost have this Patrick Bateman quality in you as well, American Psycho, and it's like you and I could see you playing that part, and I could see Bale coming in and doing Office Space. Like I could see the two of you doing those two things, and it's really good. And the glasses you're wearing, it's almost like they're like serial killer glasses.
Oh, yeah. No,
I mean,
they spent a lot. Mike, again, Mike. I must have, I sat
glasses.
there. Yeah, can you get aviators that are, I don't know, 3 times bigger than that? Yeah, so he kept going, no, bigger, bigger. So just like a couple of glass pods that cover your whole face.
Where'd you guys shoot that?
Austin.
Yeah,
because that's where he is. Yeah.
And are you doing something with Beavis and Butthead? Is that back?
I am in Beavis and Butthead. I am a government official who is tracking Beavis and Butthead as they try to destroy NASA in space.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. You've had such a great voiceover career too, from Archer and Family Guy, and I'm sure there's a million other things that I don't know. Do you like doing that? Is that like fun as hell, or what?
Love that. First thing I did was I think the very first thing I got might have been a Family Guy, but that directly came from Office Space because Seth was aware of Office Space, and so I went in, and that was. I think it might have been the first season. I think it was like in 2000.
Right.
And then, other stuff followed. Did a thing called Harvey Birdman. That was an early one that was on Cartoon Network. And then just a lot of other things just kept coming because once that door was opened, it seemed to generate a lot more stuff.
So do you get lots of calls now just for straight voiceovers? And
No, I don't. I have yet to. I went in and tried to do. I've done several readings for, the voiceover agents. There's a new Audi commercial. There's a new, none of them. They're just because then you hear them and it's like Morgan Freeman. Like, well, what were you doing in the first place? No. But I think there's something that's not. I'm not sure that's my. I'm not sure. I'm sure that's not my.
I don't know about you as the voice of the car thing. You just have you have a great comic voice, and I hear it now, and I could see so many characters. And we just shot this pilot. Charlie's in it, by the way. Sheen. We've got Martin in it. We've got
McGinley's
Dillon
in it.
Oh wow, McGinley's in it.
Yeah.
But we're hopefully we can. I'm going to call you with an offer if the show actually goes.
He ain't reading it. He ain't reading for this one, bro.
No, Gary never needs to read for me again. Again, I want to be clear about that. Gary, I did not ask.
He didn't
Cole
tell me no.
read.
I said I'll read.
My understanding is you were bringing him in for a meeting.
Yeah.
The way I remember the story, he was coming in for a meeting, and he basically said, "Well, let's just do it."
Yeah. To be totally honest,
that's an accurate description.
To be honest, I swear to you, I remember it vividly. My idea, my thought was like, what the fuck am I going to meet with? There's no way Gary Cole is playing this part.
It's like I don't even want to meet with him and then not offer it.
Like it's embarrassing. Why don't I? And I said to Sheila, why don't I just write like a character? She's like, he just wants to meet. You're going to say no. And I think, unless I'm wrong, it was only us in the room, I think. And then Gary says, why don't I just read it? And I'm like, oh my God.
It was. Well, it was Sheila. I think she was there to read.
Was she there?
Yeah,
I don't know.
So.
I don't.
Well, because I read with somebody, so I'm sure it wasn't you.
It wasn't you, Doug.
Yeah.
Thank God.
All I know
your own words.
All I know is it's an important thing to think about as whenever you're making something, because I have my stubborn thoughts that go through, and I swear to you, I remember going, please don't read, and now I'm not going to give him this part. I'm so fucking uncomfortable. And then you read 2 lines. I was like, okay, I know how to make this will work.
There
Great.
are stories like that. I mean, I think with Catch Me If You Can, I think Spielberg had the same thing with Walken. Like, he wants to read. He's not going to get the job.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, all right, well, you have to take the meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
And he blew him away in the room, and they hired him on the spot. But he came in. So it does happen.
Yeah. And I try to we had so many characters on the show, obviously, to start with, but I try to bring you back as much as I could. But I mean, I wish we had more with you because it was great. So this was awesome.
Yes. Thanks for doing this.
We really appreciate you coming in, and we are going to call you if this new show goes. We got a lot of Chicago
Offer
people.
only.
It's offer only. Done. Big offer. I mean, by the way, he's going to be so busy on NCIS. Is it are you doing 12-hour days on this, or they make sure you?
They're actually. I mean, it's 20 years, so they're pretty efficient.
Yeah,
I mean, you have days that are 12. maybe a little bit more. But there are a lot of times, I've been out of there at 2:30, so it's
a well-oiled machine at this point. I would think.
they figure out how to get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see the new season. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time, and
Same here.
We're
Thanks
really
for coming
excited to have you. And
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Everybody-
We're done. See, quick and easy. We get
Easy
you
in and out.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, Victory Podcast.
Thanks.